Today we are looking at living within your means. A lot of time peer pressure comes to us in a different form when we are older, unlike when we're younger. We want to drive a car which is expensive. We want to dress in the latest designs. We want to attend each and every single party. Social media must be buzzing and everyone must look at us and say, he's the man. Let's take a look at today's episode. My thoughts, my life, my experiences. Welcome to Leo's Life Lessons. Welcome to Leo's Life Lessons. Welcome to the show. I'm glad that you could be able to join us for another episode. I'd love to say thank you so much to everyone that had been loving the previous episode. And I got a few comments from people in the inbox saying that I've got someone who actually owes me money and how do I deal with it? So I was able to give them advice on the inbox. So I'm very excited. I'm happy because the previous episode we did was wonderful. I saw it even in various countries abroad, in England, America, and a lot of other Southern African countries, and a lot of people were getting in touch with me from South Africa, Botswana, and all these other countries, trying to find out how they could get their money back from friends or how they could improve their lives. So I'm glad that Leo's Life Lessons is actually helping you in that aspect. Now, looking at what we are focusing on today, we're looking at living within your means. It's always a very difficult thing to live within your means, and a lot of times we are in denial that this is actually how much you can afford, or this is what you can actually do. I remember one person once told me, one of my managers at a radio station when I was managing, he told me to say, if you get into a store and you can't buy it for cash, you can't afford it. And I was hurt at the time because I wanted one of the latest phones and I just couldn't afford it because my pay grade wasn't up to standard. But he was right. Something that you can't afford to buy cash, you can afford it. And a lot of times we don't accept or understand that. And that's one thing that we're going to look at today. A lot of peer pressure that we are facing in our lives when we grow up is because I want to live in a flat which everyone's going to say he lives in a good house. I want to live in a street where everyone will say, yeah, he's doing well. I want to dress up in the most expensive things or things which people will say, yeah, this guy is the guy. On social media, I want to be seen to attend every single party and, be seen to be the ball of the time, And it's always interesting if you can afford that. But unfortunately, a lot of us can't afford it. Zambia is a third world country, and I'll be honest with you, not a lot of people get the salary that will allow them to live a lavish lifestyle. But unfortunately, on social media and other platforms, everyone is living a lavish lifestyle. And it becomes a problem because in the end, it's unsustainable. Leo's Life Lessons for me is me telling you what I've experienced so that you can try and get something positive out of it. I'll start with the very beginning. My parents went to Botswana in the 80s. I've said this story before, but I'll share it again because of the context in which I'm trying to explain. When they went to Botswana in the 80s, they were both expatriates. And I'll be honest with you, expatriates get double figures. So they were getting double figures, and that's two people getting double figures. So my parents would go into a showroom and buy a car cash just there and then and say, hey, this is the new Toyota Corolla or Ford Korea. We're buying it for cash. And I was there. I was old enough to realize that they had the money. We had everything in the house that we needed. Whichever toys we wanted in the world, would buy them. Whichever country we needed to visit, would get on an airplane with our parents and go and visit it quite often. Would have holidays out of the country. But all of that changed maybe 10 to 15 years later, where the country changed. Botswana now said we wanted to have our own local teachers and we don't need expatriates anymore. So my parents were now out of employment and had put all their money savings into a home back in Zambia. So what does that mean for us? Because now we had come of age and time for college was here, time for senior education was here. We didn't have any money. It was difficult. We'd be sent to school without any pocket money, and we had to focus on our studies and our education. It was a phase. It was for another maybe 5 to 10 years. We had cable television, would watch whatever I wanted previously 10 years before, but in the next 10 years there was nothing of that sort. The clothes we used to afford, we couldn't afford anymore, And fast forward from there, we were never discontent. Our parents taught us to be content, to say, listen, at this point in time, you could get into a store and buy your clothes firsthand, but now you have to buy second-hand clothing. And we're okay with it because we realized, okay, that's what we can afford, so let's do it. It's never permanent. And for sure, it never was permanent. Fast forward 10 years later, my parents got administrative jobs in Zambia where they got back to their position where finances were coming through positively. By that time, we had already graduated university and we were all working. What am I trying to say? There's nothing that is ever going to be permanent. So even as you are making your planning or living within your means, it doesn't mean that you'll forever be at that point. It's because you plan and you're going to get a result. I know a lot of people say, you make this amount of money at 3,000 kwacha, your rental maybe will be 2,000 kwacha, and from there you remain with 1,000 kwacha. You have to come for work every day. Maybe your transport's about 600-700 kwacha. You remain with 400 kwacha. You haven't bought your relish or your food or anything of that sort, or you haven't even gotten yourself a dress or taken yourself out. But you tell yourself, anyway, I've solved. A lot of us do that. A lot of us don't sit down and make those plans, and that's one reason why we fail. I'll take you to a scripture in the Bible. I'll read it quickly. Two scriptures actually. One of them is Luke chapter 14 verse 28 to 30. It says that, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. A lot of times we have projects in our lives which we are unable to finish. It may be a project of how you're living every single day. It may be a project of you going to school. It may be a project of you, even at your work daily. It's a mini project. If you cannot sustain it, then you're not mature already enough for it. And unfortunately, in our country, Zambia, we experience that. In the world, we experience a lot of that. I'll read another scripture for you quickly. Then we begin to look at this topic in depth. It says in Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but anyone who is hasty comes onto poverty. If you do not plan your life, you are planning to fail. If you do not calculate, then it doesn't make sense to you. I asked an uncle of mine who's well-to-do. He's very well-to-do. His family is abroad in England, and he lives in Zambia. He takes care of the kids' education. He takes care of everything that they need. He has a construction company. So I asked him one time, I had a chance to live with him. Then I asked him, I said, how did you make it? How did you become successful? And how did you be able to do what you do? And he says, you see, I'm where I am today because I don't waste money. I calculate my money. I calculate what I'm going to use it for, and I use it prudently. If I'm going to go into a store and they need to give me my change, I'll get my change. If I'm going out, I'm going to tell myself that this is how much I'm going to spend, and that's it. If we ever feel when you're going out, as long as shiripatumba, shipwe, na shimbishkesa mailo, and we end up having a problem. I'll go back to the calculations we're making of a 3,000 kwacha. Now imagine you have a 3,000 kwacha like we mentioned earlier on. If you are prudent, you'd say 30% of your income is what you put towards your rental, isn't it? So that would be a 900 kwacha or 1,000 kwacha. Away from that one, you remain with a 2,000 kwacha. In the 2,000 kwacha, you must come to work every time. So that's a 500 kwacha. So you remain with a 1,500. In the 1,500, if you're a tither, there's 300 kwacha, you must tithe. You tithe your 300 kwacha. And you have savings. A lot of us in Africa don't do savings. We always believe I must have a 6-figure deal, or I must have a lot of money, a double-figure job to be able to save. Wakey. People even in the Western world save even when they have small jobs. So even if you can save 100, 200, you must always have a saving. So save something there. You will be able to sustain your life, because at the end of the day, you may not be able to go into a shop to buy all the clothes you want. We're still looking at the 3,000 kwacha. You may buy some clothes for 150 or so. If you're going to buy them from your Salaula or wherever you'll be buying them from, you can actually go ahead and buy maybe 3 or 4 items. And you can still go to work and look presentable and no one will bother you. But the thing is that is not ever going to be forever permanent, because you have made a plan. As you make a plan, as you work hard, as you grow older, as you get promotions, things change. And as they change, even your caliber of what you're doing also changes. We can't always go to all those fancy restaurants. We can't, because maybe you can't afford it at the time. But the Bible also goes on to further to tell us, to say that we must not be envious of things that we see other people having. When God was giving Moses the 10 commandments, he was telling him one of the commandments to say that do not envy another man's wife. Do not envy another man's property. Do not envy what another man has. What is that talking about? Contentment. It's important. What I'm trying to tell you is this. You may be running a business. You may be running a home. You're running your individual life. You're running a project that you're doing. As long as you do not have a plan and a schedule that you made for it, it will not work. I'm a computer scientist by profession, and we actually make out projections of a prototype of something that we are producing, where we'll be able to say this is the phase where it's in its prototype stage, this is a phase where it's in the testing phase, this is the final phase, and this is now the production phase. Now, those things are done because we want to succeed at what we're doing. In life as well, let us be honest with ourselves, let us be prudent and diligent. We're working hard as Zambians, or working hard as people from wherever we are. Let us make sure that we have a saving. Let us make sure that we have planned out how we're going to buy what we're buying. We can't eat out every time because we can't afford it. But there will be a time when you can afford it. What I'm trying to tell you is that don't obviously have the mentality of poverty where you say, I'm going to be poor forever. You must always have a way of trying to invest and come out of poverty. That's another episode we'll look at. But what I'm trying to say is that with what you have, use it to the best of its ability. The Bible says that God will bless the work of your hands. Whatever you find to do, do it to the best of your ability. So whatever amount of money that is entrusted in you, let it produce the best in you. For people who've known me for so many years, a lot of them wouldn't even really notice that I struggled in life at a certain point. Why? Because I was able to make do with what I had at the time. I have a hashtag which people call me the classic man. It's because I've always had a self-presentation style where I say, even when I couldn't afford to go into this store where I could buy a jeans for 250 kwacha, I'll go on the street or on the market and buy a jeans for 50 kwacha, which is equally almost as good and look presentable. What am I saying? Even when you're looking at buying groceries and all these other things, you can still achieve the same groceries you want to buy at a more affordable place. Because at that point, that is what you can afford. And unfortunately, Zambians and everyone else that is watching, that is where we miss it quite a lot. Shipwe na shimbishke samailo. Someone else is going to give us a way out. It's all going to work out. Like I mentioned earlier on, 3,000 kwacha is your salary. Your rental is 2,000 kwacha. It's unsustainable and it will get you in trouble. That is why in the end we have so much corruption, so much stealing, and so many problems. Can we wake up? Can we open our eyes? And I hope that this Leo's life lesson can be able to teach us one thing or another. Let us be responsible. Let us live within our means, and let us be able to grow. I'm not looking at individuals as well. I'm looking at a country. If you're a politician and you're watching this today, it's your responsibility to make sure that you use resources prudently, because those are the resources that are required to help sustain our country, Zambia. So I'm hoping that this has been something beneficial to you and to everyone else that is watching. I always advise people, share this video as many times as you can with as many people that you think need it, and I'll be glad to hear from someone from Afghanistan or Iran or Turkey or something of that sort, because already I'm getting people from America, England, and all these other countries as well. I'd love to thank my production team that keep on doing a good job all the time. You can always contact them at the end of this message. There's some information about them. Get on my Instagram, my Facebook, and all these other accounts, and we can be able to chit chat with each other. Remember, like I always say, COVID-19 is real. I'm sure you can tell I've got a flu, though I don't have COVID. COVID-19 is real. Wash your hands, sanitize, make sure that you wear a face mask, social distance, and most of all, stay at home. If you're feeling sick, there are all those lines that are available for you to be able to call to be assisted at that time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. God bless you all, and let's continue inspiring each other and helping each other grow.